Hello, hello, everybody. Hello.
Oh, what's going on?
Here we are for the
Hello.
Small Systems panel.
Small systems.
Small Systems.
Not something you see much in modular, it seems.
Nope. We're just going to pop in and say hi really quick. I'm going to start the video right now for Ito Oscillator, and we'll be back to see you in just a moment.
Fantastic.
Yes, welcome to another panel for the Synth Society Summit. We're
Woo!
keeping them coming,
We
right?
made it.
Right?
Yes.
Small systems.
Fantastic.
Here we go.
Yes. Let's do
All
it.
right. So this topic, small systems. Ignore what's to next to me right now.
Yeah, seriously. We love small systems. Just ignore it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the thing, though, right?
Totally.
Just be into small systems doesn't necessarily negate the idea that you might have a big system or might be growing a system, right?
Or
Yeah.
that's what's made you get
Sure.
into small systems, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Many different bits of that motivate you to get a smaller system.
yeah.
Let's do quick rounds. Everybody, let's drop their names. We have Johno Wells, founder of Modular World. We have Corey Banks, aka B-Boy of BboyTech Report, right?
Yo.
We have Sonja. She's blowing
That's
up with her DJ sets and her experimental modular sets. Love them. Subxtort. If you did not see the performance last night, go back to that stream and watch that performance.
Not right now.
Not
but
right now,
just-
though.
Yeah, not
Eventually.
right now, but
Like
after.
later on tonight. But yes,
And thank you
killing
so
it.
much. That's
Says he's a modular newbie, but we'll see. We'll talk about that tonight. And Fess,
Yo,
Thank
what's
you.
happening? How you
composer,
doing?
artist,
DJ,
killing it on the reverb
Synth-
channel.
synth fluencer, I guess. Like
Yep,
I kind of,
yep.
feel a way about that term, but it's all good.
All right, so yeah, small systems. We were chatting right before we went live about, I'm gonna have you start, Subxtort. Let's talk about small system. You managed to like really get into your 62 HP for, you said 5 months, right? Let's
Yeah,
talk about that for a
absolutely.
moment.
Unbelievable.
So I've
Yeah.
been producing in the box for a number of years and had decided that I was ready for a change. And I got rid of all the gear that I was using, external gear that I would record into Ableton. I stopped working exclusively in Ableton based on a video that you actually had done, which was a perfect circuit video using a 62 HP system and really banging out some cool acidy techno. I saw that and I thought, that's exactly where I want to head. And so utilizing what I learned through watching you, I started to assemble a basic system using some noise engineering gear, the Mimetic Digitalis, a Clep Diaz for some awesome stepped modulation, a bin seek so I could tweak things live, Zolaric repetitor. I found all these things that allowed me to create sounds and motions and also utilize their voices as well. The BIA, as well as Maniciteritas, and use that as the basis for just simply learning how to use modular, how modular functioned, and how it might fit into my workflow. And what I quickly discovered was that it was everything that I had hoped and more. It opened up entirely new sonic worlds to me, as well as the ability to improvise in a fashion that I simply wasn't finding when I was working strictly within Ableton. It changed everything for me, and it put me closer to the goal that I've had. I've DJ'd for many, many years and have known for DJ performances. I've always wanted to do live PAs of hard techno. And the trick was, how can I create a system that's going to allow me to make the music that I would want to create in a totally live, improvised, dangerous, nervous, exciting fashion? And I found it.
Nice. And I'm just going to say this. So this is a great jumping off point because I have questions right now for all of you. But when I did that video, that was the first time I really focused on a small system. And that's when I really realized how important using a small system really is. Like, even if that's not something you always do, like, it really made me appreciate I had to really utilize each module, and it really helped me take a look at the importance. Because when I got into modular, it was like, yes, like sound design, more and more, and I didn't have like a wall of modular at the time. I had a 104.6U case. But then when I had to, use that 62 HP and really try to play a full set with just 62 HP, I was like, wow, like this, it really helped. It was like another turning point in my modular journey of a shifting point for me. And you mentioned DJing and into small systems, and I want to jump over to Sonja because you do both of those things.
Yes, I do, but not at the same time.
Right. Talk about your system and talk about your process. And
I'm glad you brought me onto this panel. I'm literally in the process of getting rid of even more things from my already small system, to the point that I think I might just leave myself with the DFAM and the whole thing there. Because when I first got into modular, I obviously didn't have a lot of money, so I ended up buying a lot of, not a lot, but like clones and stuff, because they were cheaper. And then like, you know, modular is expensive. There's obviously like a price restriction on a lot of it. So like you had to, like, I couldn't buy a new module every week, or like sometimes even every month. They're pricey. So I had to rely on what I had. So now, like, I still don't have a lot of modules. I have the DFAM, which is not a module, and I have clouds and rings and Laqualic Ateritas, which on every panel I sing its praises because it's my favorite thing and I love using it all the time. Yeah. And then I have like 2 other ones that I just don't use as often. So like I feel like even if I had more space filled up in my kit, I would just not use it as much as I use the 4 that I just mentioned, because every time I use them, I find something new to do with them. Like I really like working with restrictions. I'm an earth sign, I'm a Virgo. I love deadlines and challenges. And sometimes I challenge myself and I'm like, hey, only use the DFAM and rings, like see what you can do with that. And I try to put more layers of complications for myself to force myself to interact with the gear deeper, to learn it more, because I feel that like part of the reason I didn't go crazy when buying modules when I first started getting into it was, yeah, because I couldn't afford it, but also because I found myself buy a bunch of stuff I didn't know how to use or need and then never touch it again. I wanted to like actually understand how all these pieces worked both by themselves and together.
Nice and smart.
Awesome.
Yeah, really smart. Total opposite of what I did.
Me too, yeah. Me too.
You're like, let's go shopping.
Oh, go ahead, Sonja. What were you saying?
I was just going to say, I have a friend, Case Fisher. She performs under Autotectonic. I don't know if you guys have heard of her, but she was one of my earlier introductions to modular synth. And when I first started buying stuff, she was like, you know, I'm kind of jealous of you because you get to work with the restrictions of having a really small kit and getting to know your stuff intimately. Because she was saying that like, now that she has a full setup plus bonuses that she can swap in and out, it's almost like overwhelming in a sense. You're like, I can do so much that I can do nothing. And it's almost like that saying, I don't know who like said it, but it's like, he who has too many has too much, has none. He who has too many has none. I think Aristotle said it, but it was about friends, which is still true, kind of.
So Fez, you did the opposite?
Yeah and no. So my first modular rig was a small system. I'm a DJ as well, and I'm a DJ as well, and like I really just wanted to get something. I wanted to build like an effects rig for my DJ set to complement my DJ sets and complement my live electronic instrumental lo-fi sets. And I did that. And I still have an iteration of it now. I'll show you that in a minute. But once I built that effects rig, it was just a 3U 84 HP skiff with like lots of stereo modules. Like, pretty much the first module I bought was like the Morphogene and like an IntelliGel stereo in and stereo out, just to like run samplers through that. So I did that first, and then that's when it hit me that I wanted to go deeper. and I started building a separate rig for, you know, more synthesis and sound design and generative stuff and all those things in between. And that's kind of like where I'm at now. But I still use my sort of dream like small effects rig. And I'm actually gonna, so I actually have, funny enough, I have my first DJ gig since the pandemic has started tonight.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's actually like the most perfect hours ever. It's from 7 to 10 out here in Chicago. You know,
like fantasy gig.
that's like dad. I'm a dad now, so like it's total dad hours for me. So I'm like all about it.
Right.
But it's
let me get home by 10. That's perfect.
Yeah, seriously. Like I was like down. Like we could do that all day. So I'm doing an all vinyl gig, but I still want to like play some of my own productions and my own drum loops and like samples and stuff. So I'm gonna bring this little 60 HP rig with me, and this is actually like my
Micro.
This is like my dream like stereo sampler effects rig. Just load a bunch of loops, drum shots in here.
Walk us through the rig, just for the chat and everybody. Just
for sure. First of all, what really completed this rig for me was this thing right here. Shout out to Corey Banks, and this wonderful multi-effects module right here. But anyways, let's start from the beginning. I just got a little 60 HP rig here. I get power from this 2 HP Endorphins fly bus powered module right here, and it's also got a passive mode that I could use. And I'm driving everything clockwise and function wise from Pamela's workout. So from there, I can load a lot of loops, a lot of my productions that I've made, and just stems, if you will, in this BitBox Micro. That's an 8-cell sampler looper, just fun box. And send stereo out into here and go into the new Beats by Mutable Instruments. I like to use this as a delay, and it's the big brother to clouds, so it could be used in lots of different ways. But I really like using this as a delay, like a tap and clocked delay. And then if I want to stretch things out and really play with the grains, I could do that with this. Not to mention, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the new Beats, but the main difference between this and clouds, they got a few different sound audio quality functions, but also these new attenue randomizer things are really fun, and you could get randomization internally in this module. So it's just like a beast to just take out and pair with stuff that I already made through the Bitbox. And then usually when I do run this as a delay, I still need more effects, and that's when this baby comes in handy. This multi effects module by my man Corey right here, and Modular Beat People. And what can I say more about this? It's got everything a lo-fi type producer like myself would want in like a live set. You got glitch, you got delay, you got reverb, and you got tape stop. So I could do a lot with this.
It's a powerful little rig you got.
Yeah, it's perfect.
This is what I'm saying. This is like I couldn't when you brought me onto this. This is like it was like totally up my alley, because I've actually spent more time trying to come to this setting than I have with even like my crazier like 7U over here that like I've been like gradually building on with like a bunch of like boxes of modules that I'm not using in the corner. So that is definitely my most like that's the rig also that I just feel comfortable leaving the house with now,
right?
Like it is, yes, it's all digital, and yes, there was a few pieces that I had to invest time, money, and energy into learning, but it made it all worthwhile. And the fact that it's compact, and I don't have to get too crazy with it if I don't want to. And it's totally not my like improvisational type rig. If I wanted to do that, I would probably have an entirely different approach.
Right.
But yeah.
Cool. And speaking of improv, that's a good segue over to Johno, because you have been doing some very interesting things, and I know that you've went down to a smaller, not using your big case, smaller case, and not even a sequencer, right?
No.
So yeah, talk about your going.
Well,
from,
I mean, if you're thinking about,
if
you're thinking about smaller systems, a big battleship sequencer is kind of a decision to make. I feel fortunate to be able to use the big system for more like ADHD sort of patching and fun, and then when I want to really focus and build something out, then I go to 7U 104. So I kind of go in.
I love that case, man. I got that one too.
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah. So yeah, 7U is good. 7U 104, because they also have a 7U 84, which I can't That's just on the side of too, of too little for me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, one part of this that's annoying is that when I was, when you're first getting in and you hear people who've got a wall of modules say you only need a few to make it happen, it's like, man, that's because you've got a ton to choose from, and you've been through this learning of, let me buy it, let me sell it, didn't work out, thought I wanted it, thought I, all that. It's like, let me stumble in the dark and buy all this shit and then sell it and, figure out what really works. So it's kind of, it's obnoxious in one way to have a bunch of modules and then say all you need is a smaller case. Because if all you've got is a smaller case, then it's true, you do need more to make those choices. So I wanted to just acknowledge that. And I do feel, really fortunate to be playing with a wall of stuff, which I can pick through. But that said, there's just nothing like being able to just focus on 7U and just leave my space here, sitting on this tall chair. End of the day, like, I don't want to work here. I want to be down on my kitchen table, feet on the ground, headphones on, wife watching Netflix, and just like dive in, I don't know. It's good to get out of space and just get into another, But as far as improv and no sequencer, that's a whole other conversation. I don't know how far you want me to go there.
I just wanted to throw that out there because I just think it's interesting. I love everything that you've been doing, and and you're using this case that you can just you've been popping up in all these different like beautiful scenic places.
That was the battery thing. I wanted one of these batteries. I asked for one for Christmas. My wife knows how to do this stuff, and it powers that 7U great. So I can.
What battery is this?
It's the RAV Power 30,000 milliamp. It's on Amazon, like $120, and it's got like a 3-prong outlet on it, just like in your wall, and it powers your 7U perfectly, man. And it also powers my little Zoom recorder. So I just little power strip coming out of it, and I can just plug a couple things into it, and it runs for hours.
Thanks to your advice,
I see
Space
that
Racer was able to take her 7U to her last analog space mission.
Yeah.
And like she was able to get into her modular rig there, and
Fess,
the beauty of using a small setup too.
Fess, a word on that battery too, man. Like going out and playing, like DJ gigs. We were just talking about this the other night on a stream, but moving forward, going back to playing live, walking into funky clubs, showing you their power strip, here's where you plug in. And it's always like, I'm just going to bring my own power.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that is a level up right there.
I'm just going to show up and be like, I'm good, and just turn on my own stuff. It runs for hours. So it run more than your set would ever be.
Wow. Yeah,
but,
this is awesome.
Like with the small rigs thing, like I remember one of the first shows that I played up in LA was at Sky's. He was doing like the backyard barbecue, a bunch of us show up and play, and I show up with all my shit because I'm nervous and I've got like everything I own, and my partner Matt was coming too, and we had like this big like 16 channel console, and we had all these inputs, and it was like a freaking orchestra, and we did our thing and it was cool. And I remember POB played late that night, and he had, it must have been like 42 HP sort of thing. And he had like mimetic, Pams, and a Manus. And like we're all gathering around, he's just blowing shit up, just completely killer set. And it was such a good like lesson to the kids who drove up from San Diego with all our shit. He just killed it. And it was, it's a good lesson, and less is more.
So
less is always more.
Yeah, go ahead, Trovarsi. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and Corey, like when Johno said bringing small setup to the club, it reminded me of your story and your small setup, and I want to hear about how your small setup as well, because you've been killing it with yours. I feel like you
Totally.
really locked down your setup. Which
Yeah,
is
And
that
those
was
morphogene
phenomenally-
skills. My God.
Yes.
Killing me.
with me, man. I mean, you know, let me see it. Well, the big speaker is covering it up, but you can see how the wires are coming out. That's a huge system. And being in the studio, using that thing, you have everything at your disposal. You could just kind of be as luxuriously patching everything and ignoring everything or whatever you might want to do. But I had to figure out, how do you go and perform? You know what I mean? How do you do that? And that was a real conundrum for me. So, you know, at some point I got the Force. The Force became the centerpiece of my live rig, just as it's been the centerpiece of my studio for about a couple years. So it was really since it came out. But the idea there was, so with the Force, I can capture all of these loops, a lot like Bitbox sort of thing, and do, you know, launching and stuff like that. So I can be as luxurious as I want while producing jams or doing stuff like that, making beats. But then I capture all that stuff into the Force. And because the Force is very performance oriented, it has performance effects in it. And then let me just do this here. So it has performance effects in it, and that's good for live, but I wanted to be able to not just doing live arrangements. I wanted to actually be able to incorporate actual, you know, live modular into the situation. So over here is my little trusty sort of performance case, right? And I can take
That's pretty.
I can take that with just about anything, right? And if pan out just a little bit.
That's the one. Yeah.
This is the guy that really gets me through every performance, because I'll take that with the Force and just have that, and it has a performer in it too. So that's the end of the chain. So a lot of what I'm doing is I'm running that, and I do a couple different setups. So I'll run either the Force through this little modular setup, or I'm running this modular setup through the Force. And it depends on how I want to act up for the night.
Yeah, I feel that.
I like it.
And, you know, if I want to go with more of a, you know, almost, you know, sort of lo-fi mod bap vibe, then I'm mostly running the Force through my modular, so that at the end of the chain, you get, you know, the performer, so I can do performance tricks and stuff. But for me, it's really about too, like, leaving, like I was talking about Trovarsi on there, it's really about, you know, when I produce in the studio, capturing the audio, but leave the CV on tracks. And then when I take my smaller system out to shows and gigs, then I can still run that CV to the small rack and have something like Surface with morphogene. Surface, this is my favorite setup. Surface, Data Bender, morphogene, and performer. Like, that is a killer setup, because you have an oscillator and you have a lot of stuff there to manipulate and just damage shit. You know what I mean? To do lots of real tricky, fun stuff with. So, I mean, that little setup, that's my rig with this IntelliGel case. So, yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah, I'm still, like, I have performed with some of my voices live, but I always feel out of tune when I come out with my actual voices. And that also is a thing of why I went on and got a few digital oscillators, mainly for live purposes, like the Acid Rain. Oh God, the little Acid Rain
Chainsaw?
Ripsaw. That thing is perfect because it stays locked, and then you got that like tuning knob that's like actually you're tuning it by like actual semitones, and then you could even adjust it. You could do the fine point tuning too, but like you know what it is when you're putting it out. And I was doing that for a while until I got a tuner, and now I'm feeling a little bit more confident about that. But go ahead, John. Sorry.
One thing with the chainsaw, you probably know this, but if you want to reset its tuning, just hold the tuning down and it resets to C,
right.
C2 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was another reason why I was like, this is probably going to be like the main live oscillator for me personally.
That's solid, yeah.
I'm coming from an environment in Chicago. I also host this like live electronic open mic situation out here called Open Beats. And it's cool. It's been going on for a few years, but like I come from this like performance environment where like we don't really have much time in between sets. Particularly like at this night that I host. Obviously if I do like a bigger show at a venue, I might actually have like a load-in time and I really have some time to like tune up my stuff. But coming from that environment where it's just like, man, just plug in your stuff and just go, like, that's also what forced me back into like the smaller system way of thinking, because, John, I know you could pop out with your 7U, but for a while, me popping out with my 7U was actually too much for me live, because I'm also still using some desktop stuff like the Deluge, sometimes the Black Box. So for me, it is still about small systems in terms of live performance, unless that is what you do, like as far as just building all your voices and rhythms live, you know what I mean?
That's one of the things too, but just to speak to stuff that you carry out. I don't know if you know, Fess, but that's part of what prompted me to create the Performer.
I can feel it, man.
I mean,
when this thing dropped, I was like, yes. Like,
yeah,
you hit it right on the head.
Right. I was taking out, the force, and actually when I started doing gigs, I was taking a 6U 104. And while that was the business, like I could really have fun and get busy, but I started to realize it was just kind of like, okay, then I added the SP 404. And so I got all of this stuff, you know what I mean? And I had to trim it down some, but I still wanted that 404 vibe with me, but I just didn't want to be carrying it out. And so that's why I kind of created this to kind of go in a case and be able to still do what I want to do with a smaller rig of stuff. So, yeah.
It's hard, especially if, depending on where you are playing or what venue or what have you, you do have to consider that, like I've played sets where I'm literally playing in between a DJ set and a warehouse, and back, it's like, if I don't, a lot of times I've been fortunate enough to have the proper time to set up and have a sound check and then come back later. But there have been times when I first started playing out, they're like, you only get this much space, and I'm like, you have to make it work, and then and so that's where it started putting me in my mindset too about making my setup small, or at least something that I know it would take me no more than 10 minutes to set up, Sonja, how long does it take you to set up when you play your live sets out?
I was gonna say, the live set for me was a big factor in setting everything up, because I prefer to do live performance over just digging around at home. I don't know, I like the pressure of the live performance, and obviously I like the pressure of the small system too. So I do most of my work within a live performance. So it was very important for me to find something that would be portable enough to take on the bus or put in an Uber, that wouldn't be too heavy because I'm frail. And that would be easy enough to set up that I wouldn't confuse the sound tech or whoever. So honestly, it doesn't take me that long. After enough sound checks, you kind of just get it down to a science. It probably takes maybe 10 minutes now. But I try to preset a lot of my stuff up at home, within the case and every external thing that I might need, so that when I get there, it's just about plugging things in. But honestly, I haven't done an actual live show. That's what happens when you have 7 dogs? A lot of dogs.
Is that all?
I was thinking about that today. I was like, oh my God, Trovarsi has 7 dogs.
How is she going to do this? Sonja, let me ask you, how would you, do you plan on getting a sequencer for your rack? And how would you do that in small case?
I don't know. I have the Korg sequencer, but I don't use it that often. So maybe I should take time to learn it more.
You and I are kind of in a similar area like that. It's just, we can save a lot of space by not using a sequencer. You know,
Yeah, I'm
'cause when
actually in the process of, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine.
I was gonna say, like, I'm actually trading down my big, I have the 104 IntelliGel case, but I'm trading it down for a smaller one for a friend because I want something that's even more portable than that one.
How small are you going? Before
Um,
you answer that question, I'm sorry. Fez, I know you have a gig tonight.
Yeah, I was
so
just going to say, man, I
yeah.
just want to interject. God, this is
Yeah,
such
thank
great
you for
stuff.
being here.
Please invite me to more of these. I love this stuff. Like, even if we're not live, like, can we just talk about modular and hang out right like this?
And you know, yeah, that's a good. Thank you for laying that segue for me. We have
Yeah.
a Discord.
Yes.
Synth Society has a Discord. You can chat in there. If you don't have the invite, I will send one to you after the panels are done.
Awesome.
And,
thank you guys. Thanks everybody in the chat too for tuning in.
Nice to meet you.
Greetings from Chicago.
Take
Guys,
care.
look me up whenever you're
Have a
here
good
or if you're
gig.
not, whatever.
Ciao,
Peace out.
Hey, tag us on IG and let us know how your small system worked.
We'll do.
Okay.
Yep. Later.
Ciao,
Ciao,
Fez.
Fess.
So Sonja, what are you going down to?
I forget. It's small. It's like probably half of that or the 64 one or something because my friend Eric has it and we're just gonna do like a trade because he wants to go up and I want to go down. I'm like, oh my God, bless. Just give me like some cash in the between and I'll use that to, I don't know. I'm feeling like antsy. I'm in the moment now. I want to like sell all my modules and buy a bunch of new modules, but like not a bunch, like 2. So they fit within the case.
That's like a good opportunity to try to find people where you can do like a swap.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Like I'm trying to like, I guess like reset because I've been using this same or like similar kit for like a few years now. And I have had a lot of fun making this like droney stuff, but I think maybe now I want something else.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
Constantly evolving journey.
Yeah.
And you know what? I gotta say for me, I think it's all relevant, right? Like some situations, I'd even call this little 20 HP joint that I have here with the performer and this little just IO piece. I'd call that like a micro system. But I mean, it's all relevant. You know what I mean? This is 20 HP. The thing that I use mostly is 62. That's the palette case. And then this, I mean, what is 18U case over here? It's just like everything. And I fall in and out of love with it. But I think it's all relevant depending on how you create. And if you, if you're performing out a lot, I could definitely see, back before 2020, performing out a lot, like I only focused on my live rig at that moment. Which was at the moment 6U, 104 HP. But I think it's all relevant because, it's just tools, right? But I also will say, don't underestimate the power of a well-tooled, well-designed, well-put-together small system. If you know what you're trying to do, and I mean, like I said, my favorite little lineup with the Surface and Data Bender and Morphogene and Performer, I can create for days on end with that little bitty system. You know what I mean? Like literally for days on end. So I think it's all relevant. It really depends on what you're trying to do. But yeah, you can get busy with a small system if you do it right. Because I also had put small systems that had all the wrong shit in it. And then I was like, this should be good, but it's not good. I'm not doing anything with this. You know what I mean?
That's where modular grid is so powerful. Like I've got multiple 7U systems on there, and they're all a little different. They've all got a little flavor, and
I love using modular grid too. I have the what is it called, the unicorn
Me
one?
too.
Because I have all my systems all of the various ones I've used, and it's nice to then be able to go back and like rebuild those. But I also want to kind of go back to what you said too, Johno, and add to what Corey was saying. You made this killer setup now, and that you did, you had the luxury, to be able to swap out other modules and figure that out. And I just want to say for people in the chat, hey everyone in the chat, thank you for being here. I recognize a lot of you, and for those people that are new to modular and they don't have the funds to just be buying modules all the time, like one thing to do is take advantage of your Synth Society and build those relationships, maybe do a module swap. I know some people that are always mailing modules back and forth to each other or meeting up and trading.
Do
And
it all the
that's a
time.
good way. Yeah. So that's just keeping that in mind. I want to throw it out there. I know maybe it's stating the obvious, but just that's something that, like we just forget about, like in our own little worlds, especially at the pandemic. But hey, like definitely something to consider, like swapping modules with somebody. Yeah.
And also, like just the funds to acquire more. I mean, it was good for me to learn not to be sentimental with old gear that I had, because I used to hoard stuff, and my work is video and film, so I had microphones and lenses and cameras. And it's like, I can't sell that beautiful lens. I took that to Africa. It's like, bro, you don't even shoot Nikon anymore. You're you're shooting Canon now, and you've got this old lens. So that was how I raised money to buy modular stuff, is that suddenly everything in my life had a price tag on it. And all these pieces of gear like trembling in the corner, like, oh, he's looking at me, fuck. But I sold everything that wasn't tied down, that wasn't making me money.
That is a good point. And another thing, everything. Sentimental about gear, right? But the other thing is too, what I also found is over the last 2 years or so, there's a micro everything. There's a smaller everything.
Yes.
And so I had that sort of, back and forth in my mind about, I'm trying to build a smaller system that has the most functionality for what I'm trying to do. And, okay, sell ONC and get the smaller one.
I did the same thing.
Sell braids and get the smaller one. You want elements. Elements is entirely too big. Get the micro elements. You know what I mean? And
totally.
The only thing about those kinds of things is that they have the mini pots. So, one small turn is actually one big turn in the whole parameter.
Yeah, right.
You have to, get used to those kinds of things. But that's also another point when you're building a small system. Consider, those smaller modules, clones of the modules, because it can go far. And then you also have places like the Erica Sense Pico stuff. You have the 2HP stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of options out there. And that's where I started being like, okay, I could get rid of this bigger module that maybe I don't use a lot to outfit this thing with smaller.
I did the same thing. Definitely. Definitely.
I'm just going to interject in here and just say, please keep chatting up to the next hour. I'm jumping out to start another panel. And I want to thank you, everyone, for being on this one, and enjoy the rest of the panel. See you on the next one.
There she goes.
Take care, Trovarsi. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Brian, let me ask you, how are you handling sequencing and clock? Like you mentioned the mimetic, but what's at the top of it?
Sure. So when it comes to doing live techno, one of the things that I really wanted to do is make sure that I could have a self-contained system that had all of the voices necessary for me to keep cyclically bringing interesting elements into a set. Because my DJ background, one of the things I'm very sensitive to is when something's gone on for too long. So the way I built my system, I'm going to pull up a photo actually, because I'm actually in the garden instead of the studio today. But if we take a look right here, you can see how that's built out. And I know it's small screens for everybody else, but if we take a look here, I'm actually running clock from, if I'm in a studio mode, I'm running clock from Ableton. Otherwise, I'm running clock from my MX1, which goes into my TR8S, which then sends a trigger to either the this little guy here, or if I'm running MIDI, the Steppy, or I run my MIDI directly into this. And then what I do is I go ahead and send that to these little patch bays here, so I can send that signal and clock everything that's within my rig. And one of the cool things is, and I learned this from watching some of Ricky Tinez's videos, is with Steppy, I can go ahead and generate clock divisions or do different weird clock things just by programming in the different steps.
Yeah.
And so I make sure that I just provide a very consistent clock to all the different modules. So here is mimetic digitalis, and I use that for either pitch sequencing or sending just CV modulation to whatever modules I like. Right next to that is a bin seek and then a clep diaz, because I think, again, in techno, that stepped modulation can create for some beautiful, beautiful modulations in your voices. And then I start getting into the actual voices themselves. And right now, in my case, I've got 6 voices, and I'm actually going to transition down to 4. But the idea is I move from one voice to the next, to the next, to the next, blending, and across the top is all my purely modular stuff. And underneath, I make sure that I keep 2 semi-modular modules. In this case, I've got a DFAM and I've got the quadranted swarm, because this gives me the opportunity to have more traditional sequence, sound, envelopes, everything all in one place. And I can get more experimental and weird up here. That gives me the flexibility necessary to keep a set going for an hour, 2 hours, and keep it fascinating without really parts going stale. It's why I don't do any drums in the modular. It's all done in a TR-8S, so I can program patterns quickly and have different drum tones ready to go to also keep that fresh. And then that all connects into the Roland MX1. So I don't need much in the way of filters within the modular system, because every one of those channels has a resonant high pass, low pass filter on it, in addition to side chain, generating clock, the whole bit. It's all there. I love it.
Dope. Nice setup.
Hey, we have 5 minutes left, and I just want to touch on one of the questions in the chat. Slim Pickens asked about VCV. For someone new into modular, how good is MIRAC and VCV for choosing the right modules? Are they really good representation, or just a way to learn about it in general? That's a huge conversation and a great question. Yeah, it
is. I see people live their lives on VCV racks.
Me too.
If the blind taste test, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
I agree. Yeah, I have zero snobbery over it. It doesn't sound as good or anything like that. It sounds great, but then also I think it is a great way to learn about synthesis. So I wouldn't, to answer the word just, I wouldn't say no. It's more than just a way to learn about synthesis. But I think it's also, and somebody else mentioned, Mike Berry said he used VCV Rack for a year before he bought his first module. I did the same. I didn't last for a year, but I lasted for about 6 months. And it's free, it's brilliant, and there's so many great modules in it. It could save you a lot of, it's just great to use. And it's not a toy, it's brilliant. You could make albums on it.
And it uses the same ethos, right? Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not just a standard architecture soft synth. It's a modular synth.
Totally. Yeah.
All of these things in it. You have to use the same sort of thought process to patch in there as you physical world. And one thing that I've used VCV Rack for is to know whether or not I would like a module that came out. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, mutable instruments. If you don't have something that's mutable instruments that you're like, I'm curious about whatever it might be, get on there and patch with it for a couple hours and see how you like it, how you get along with it. Maybe you might find that I don't need to buy the physical thing. I could just use VCV Rack. Or you might like, yep, that answers my question. I'm going to go get it. And that'll be perfect for my small system.
3 minutes left. Sonja, anything you want to say that you haven't said?
I guess my final note would be, what I try to remind everyone is that you can have a lot of really fancy stuff, but if you don't know how to use it, doesn't matter. My dad always says, technology in the hands of a savage is just a piece of metal.
What a genius. I mean, similar, with photography, right? And, video too, everyone will tell you that it's what you're going to do with it, versus having a really good camera.
Exactly. And it's like what Corey said earlier, there's a lot of possibility in a small system, especially if you build it right.
But, all of these are words when it comes up against gear acquisition syndrome, right? And these are words easily said by people with big systems. This shit drove me nuts at the beginning. I wanted to buy everything. And there is also a counterpoint to you can't do certain things unless you have this module.
Mhm.
You know, you can learn how to do a lot with a little. It's true. But there are certain things where it's like, I can't do that unless I have that.
Mhm.
And that's a slippery slope because some of it's true, you know?
The
Yeah,
other thing
definitely.
about that is that you may have something that within the idea like, yo, this has that feature. I want to use that. And I'm going to get that. And then time gets away from you. You look up at 6 months and you haven't done that.
Right. That's true too.
There are modules that I've had for a couple years that I just started to realize the real magic in them.
Yeah.
And that's a weird thing that I feel like only happens maybe it doesn't only happen in Eurorack, but it definitely seems to happen more to me in Eurorack. So yeah, it's a weird thing. You got to be careful because that's that slippery slope that everyone talks about.
Yeah.
I'd say
I would say that I've felt that. Sorry, Corey.
No, go ahead.
I've felt that with VST instruments where I saw something for an amazing looking synth and I bought it, and how many years later I was like, oh, I could do that in this. It's like
that's right.
A lot of missed opportunities, you know, and something I thought I needed so bad that I, wussed out on anyway. You know?
That's classic. It's true.
Oh, I love you guys. All right. Monoscene says Omri Cohen is on the panel tomorrow with Sarah Bell Reed. Both people anybody who's interested in VCV Rack should not sleep on Omri Cohen's YouTube channel. That was what got me going. I love Omri. And Sarah Bell Reed, there's just so much that can be said. Okay. I don't want to go over because the next panel is starting and everybody should just jump to that. So underneath this video playing, click on SoCal Synth. It'll take you to the base channel page and you can see the next one that's going on.
All right.
So
These are
Brian, Corey, thank you so much for being here.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Great chat, everybody.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Much love. We'll see you on the next panel.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.
Off you go.
Yep. Take care.
All right, hang on, people.
Mm-hmm.
And I will go to the thank you screen.